Hello everyone, thank you for watching. This is the Phoenix Fleet Systems channel where we'll show you some of the ships that I have built, and basically the purpose of it is just to kind of give a reason as to why some of these ships have certain features that they do, basically why I designed them a certain way, and just sort of how to use the ships. I do tend to get asked a lot questions relating to basically how the ship is supposed to be used, or those sorts of things. So in these slides we'll try to explain that. And here we have in front of us the Sabiroid. It is a low altitude assault frigate. Basically what that's meant to do is to go in at low altitudes, obviously, and then take out enemy fortifications. So it's not really meant much as a dogfighting ship or anything like that, or anti-ship things. More of just meant of taking out enemy fortifications and enemy vehicles. The design I actually took from a picture I found. It was a fan art of a rebel ship from Star Wars type thing, and I just kind of mixed it with more aggressive looking features. And as far as the weapons though, we do have 6 missile launchers, and then there's 4 Gatling guns on the top. Then there's also 1 LARP missile launcher. That's LARP is laser assisted atmospheric remote penetrator torpedo thing, guided missile. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. And as you can see here below the ship too, there are 4 connectors, and they're all having blue lights, and those connectors are to be used for drone hardpoints. And so basically the ship could host 1 small squadron of drones, and the drones are these right here. This is called the Bat Drone, named because it simply kind of looked like one, reminded me of one anyway. And a short little stubby disposable drone has 4 guns and about 8 small containers of ammunition. It is completely battery powered, so you can charge it up, don't have to worry about fuel and all that. And basically these are meant just to head on ahead of the ship, and they can either kind of take out enemy defenses ideally, but most of the time they're probably just going to be tying up those same defenses, because they don't really have the armament to take care of things themselves. But it is important to distract the enemy defenses, because the LARP missiles do have trouble with it. So these can help the LARP missiles get in there and do their job. So moving on up, we have the Gargoyle gunship. I released this, I think about a week ago, maybe? I don't know. Anyways, it comes with 2 LARP missiles too. You can switch those out for rocket pods if you like. But anyways, the landing pad here on top of the frigate was designed specifically to accommodate this gunship. And so it's the perfect size for one to land. Of course, it can't land with those LARP missiles underneath because they're a bit too large. But if you didn't have those missiles, then it could land on top, and this connector is placed strategically to go with it. You can see how it's actually raised up above the floor here, and I accomplished that with rotor displacement, since I didn't really need the full extension of a piston. But basically it needed to be raised so that it could reach the connector underneath the gunship, because as you can sort of tell here, the connector is actually 1 small block higher than the bottom portion of the gunship there under the nose and the wings. So that way it can land and also connect. So moving on to the ship itself, on top I did create a little walkway thing. I always kind of like the aesthetics of stuff like that, and even though my style usually doesn't allow me to do it. But anyways, it just kind of sail along, you know, like if you're on a boat or something, you could be out here enjoying the Martian breeze with no oxygen. But going on to the interior, if you come up from the landing pad, then you can go down into the airlock. And this airlock actually uses a script that was developed by Whiplash, and as we get blown away by the oxygen. But when you go inside, you can notice the lights are blinking when the door is open. The light turns blue as the door closes. Then of course, pressurize. Now we have oxygen, and we can open the next door. It also keeps you from opening both doors at the same time, which is nice, because I know some people like to exploit that. And then of course it turns blue and closes again. So as you come in, you have the med bay off to the left. It's a very basic med bay, just there, and 2 cryo chambers. And back here is the engineering section. We'll look at that a little bit more in a bit. Over on the other side is a small crew quarters. This has 2 beds, and then just 1 seat where you can look out the window and enjoy the view. The beds would basically be for like a medical personnel and then a engineering person. And in the engineering section back here, I wasn't able to fit into a hydrogen tank for the emergency boosters, so I accomplished their propulsion by using excess of oxygen generators. There's 13 of those, so they can fuel that. And then we have 10 batteries, and the batteries aren't enough to keep the ship flying really, but they do keep it hovering for about 20 minutes or so, which should be enough to allow you to change out your fuel if you happen to run out. And speaking of fuel, it runs off of 1 large reactor, which holds 8,000 liters, which translates to 153,000 or so units of uranium ingots. So therefore, it can burn for about 42 days if you're wanting maximum draw of the power, usually about 50%. Obviously, you're not going to be always asking for maximum, so really you're going to get 50 to 60 days of flight. So it's very fuel efficient, which is really good because admittedly, the ventral fin, while looking cool, doesn't exactly help you land on planet surfaces, so it's good to keep this thing floating and not crashing into the ground. So definitely good at doing its job there. And so we'll move on, and again with beds and crew quarters, and then moving up, you have just a basic hallway here, and not much to say about that. You have some windows here on the sides where you can see out the missile turrets. And then as we move further on, there is the crew quarters, main crew quarters. Now this one uses the automatic script. It's mixed in with the airlock thing by Whiplash, so it automatically closes the door. Of course, you'll notice the one at the bridge does not close automatically. That is on purpose because the vent here is actually feeding the bridge. I wasn't able to fit in a conveyor line to get a vent into the bridge, so I decided to do it this way. Basically, the door to the bridge exists so that if the glass gets breached, then you aren't killing all the rest of your crew back here. And yeah, so moving on into the bridge. Of course, I've been doing a lot of modded builds recently, for the past year and a half, I guess. But I wanted to switch to doing more vanilla stuff, because I know people like that, and basically I want to accomplish, of course, the same amount of detail. So what I did here was I attached small ship stuff by a rotor, that way it can work with the ship and all that, and it is secured by landing gear, which you can just barely see here on the sides, not really. But anyways, there's landing gear there, they keep it locked down, and actually works very well. If you are going at full speed doing aggressive maneuvers with this ship. I have not experienced any problems, even in multiplayer, where lag usually messes a lot of stuff up. It actually works very well. So this is definitely a kind of feature I will continue to use. And here you have just seats for the drone pilots, co-pilots, flight engineer, whatever you want to call them. And of course there's the pilot seat. And this one on the left gives you your power readout, your date, and your time, and just basic stuff there about the ship. And then over on the right, there is your speed, your GPS position, and your cargo space. And then down here at the bottom, there is a compass, which was developed by Pennywise recently. And I modified that script just to display the compass only, because I didn't really feel like we needed most of the other things. Now, to take control, you could press K, go here to the group that says control, and then just simply hit the button control. So it's done by remote control. Now your key bar is number 1 is your emergency boosters. The way that those work is there's hydrogen boosters underneath the ship. So if you start to fall too much, kind of like what we're showing here, you can hit those boosters and they'll slow down your fall much more quickly, and that way it can keep you from running into the ground, which is obviously a good thing. And in the second one we have reverse thrusters. If you want to turn those off so you don't have to keep pressing W as you go forward. And then Gatling guns, missile turrets on and off. These turn your blue lights off outside, and these are your blinking lights outside. Next is your proximity system. our proximity warning. Basically, there's a sensor on the ventral fin, and it will sound off an alert if you get within 25 meters of the ground. This way you can keep flying in the cockpit without having to use a third-person view, but you can know if you're about to hit something. So I'll kind of demonstrate that here. As we go down to the ground, you'll eventually hear it click when it activates. And then once it activates with the ground, then it starts off an alert in the cockpit, which you can hear now. And if that annoys you, then of course you can turn that off. And you can also turn off the sensor, which I kind of recommend in multiplayer because the sensor does cause a lot of lag, especially for the host for some dumb reason. In the second one anyway, we have our missile bay camera. This is in tab 2, and then welders to weld your missile together. And this is your missile bay doors in slot 3. You can press 4 to fire the missile, and 5 is your targeting camera, and we'll show more about how that works in just a little bit. So, as far as the overall look of the ship though, I mean, like I said, it was kind of inspired by that Rebel cruiser that I saw, which was just fan-made, but also I wanted to really capture a Helghast feel. So if it reminds you any bit of that, then it is intentional. I wanted it to kind of put off that same aggressive feel and imposing. And the cockpit is made, just since it is a ground attacker, the cockpit's really made to allow you to have a good view of what's below the ship so that you can know what you're flying over, good field of view on both sides. When you're flying too, you want to do it more like a helicopter or one of the gunships, so bank to kind of slow down your sideways movement by pointing those downward thrusters to the side. A similar thing if you're slowing down, the deceleration rate, as you can see here, is very slow if you're just using normal thrusters, so you'll find it much more effective to just simply tip the nose upwards. Obviously you want to be careful doing that because you can start to fall, so you can bring in your emergency boosters if you have to in that case, but ideally you don't want to. But anyways, that would be much more effective for doing that maneuver. And going back inside, just again what I was talking about earlier, where you have a good field of view on both sides and below. So now we'll get on into a demonstration of basically how this ship works in combat, and basically how it's designed to go into a situation. So here we're starting off with the pirate base from the Mars Easy Start scenario, and you can see one of the LARP missiles fly off right there. I've already lined up the camera to target the turret. I took the missile turret out earlier, by the way, because it was kind of tricky to kill, so I just figured we'd go ahead and skip here so that you wouldn't have to watch the whole thing. But anyways, it does tend to have trouble with turret fire. So one advantage of the ship, and of course the welding system, is that you can continue to build them, and of course in creative mode you can pump these out fairly quickly and just eventually overwhelm the firepower of the turret. Now you saw earlier that one of those missiles did go off to the side. That does happen rarely. Not sure why, but as you can see, most of them are fine. But basically you can continue to do this so long as you have resources in survival. You don't want to fire too quickly or you can wind up jamming up the launcher. I typically recommend turning welders off before firing, but in this case I haven't. So we did manage to take out the turret just now, and just gonna check to see if there's a missile. There still is, so we'll go ahead, turn the welders off, and then we'll go ahead and just spit out that missile just for the heck of it. And then of course I'll show you how this works, where the missile does follow the camera. So as you can see, it's following, and I'll point it on into the base and impact there. So that again is Whiplash's script for guided missiles. Highly recommend getting it if you haven't already. And going back into the controls here. And so now that we've taken down the main defense of the pirate base, we'll go ahead and move forward. So basically this is what it would do, is you'd send those drones on ahead, tie up enemy defenses, send the missiles to actually destroy the enemy defenses, which are tied up with your drones, And then once enemy defenses are down, you can move on into gun range and actually kill stuff with it. But other than that, you can use the drones and the missiles outside of the enemy range to take out those key targets. But those interior turrets are firing at us right now, but we'll go and take care of them. Gonna switch the faction to me, which I should have already done, but I didn't. And now that it's mine, then obviously the turrets are gonna start firing. So basically this is what it would be like. You'd have the ship hovering over and just missiles raining down. So basically that's how it works. You send the other stuff in, clean everything up, or clear it out, and then you send the actual ship in, just hover over it, and clean up the rest. So pretty simple concept, rather aggressive I think, but that is definitely the intention of the ship, is just to annihilate enemy fortifications, and I think it would be pretty awesome to see squadrons of these doing that. So again, that is the Sabiroid Low Altitude Assault Frigate. If you did like the ship, then the link will be in the description below, so obviously you should go on the workshop and get that. If you like the video, this is my first one on YouTube, so definitely let me know what you think. Any feedback would be helpful. And obviously rate, subscribe, etc., all that nonsense. And we'll see you guys next time.